As some of you guys may know, if you know me personally or you follow me on Twitter, I've been calling for a Call of Duty eSports only title for some time now. Many of the great minds I know, and myself, have been following their way out of the eSports title for Call of Duty for quite some time. I played from Modern Warfare 3 all the way through to Advanced Warfare in terms of competitive play, and in Advanced Warfare I was an older player, more experienced player, playing with younger talent and just not being able to keep up. I was not prepared to try and learn the new movement mechanics, and it's just seemingly being drastically changed every single year. I didn't like Advanced Warfare's movement system at the time. In reflection, I like it a lot more than I like Black Ops 3's movement system, and especially Infinite Warfare's. We, as the fans, are the architects of our own demise for this movement system. We called for some great innovative change that never came. We said, we want innovation. The game is stale. The best innovation to make was no innovation at all. We wanted something massive, whether that being the movement change that we all wanted. Wow, it looks so cool. In the end, it wasn't. It did not make for good gameplay. The gameplay became erratic, and the tactical depth of the game was lost. Players who played Call of Duty back then, in 2008, 2009, Modern Warfare 2 time, could pick up Infinite Warfare now and not recognise anything but the first-person view model. The game has completely changed. Esports is a constantly growing and changing industry. It's now nearly worth $1 billion collectively, but it seems like the best models in esports are those that have already been established. Counter-Strike's been around since the early 2000s, in the 1999, and Dota 2 and League of Legends are some of the stable mopers that everyone knows to be the biggest esports and the biggest prize pools. New titles like Overwatch and Rocket League are even pulling in substantial viewing figures because their game is innovative and entertaining for people to play and watch. Call of Duty's model worked. It wasn't broken. It didn't need to be changed. Black Ops 2 was arguably the best Call of Duty esports title. It birthed an exponential growth and interest in the esport, with prize pools exponentially growing at a congruent rate, and its popularity doing the same. And the esport enjoyed much of the same growth in Ghost off its back of its sister. Advanced Warfare was where the esport capped, in my opinion. I don't remember seeing many new faces in the scene in Advanced Warfare, even less in Black Ops 3, and basically none in Infinite Warfare. Advanced Warfare has been great for viewing figures, let's be honest about that one. The fan bases were already established from Black Ops 2 and Ghosts, and by that point, MLG had been doing some fantastic work on the streams and the events to make sure that the games had decent viewership and that the quality of production was brilliant. And it was, back then. For its time, it was ahead. It was good. When Denial won the Call of Duty World Championships in 2015, it was one of the most watched Call of Duty finals in history that I seem to remember, and it didn't even contain Optic. That's how popular the game was. Duty is the only esport which replenishes its title once every single year. CSGO has been out since 2012, it's still going on strong. League of Legends has been out from 2009 and it's still growing. Dota's been out since 2013, that's Dota 2, not obviously Dota 1. And these games are on their life cycle for nearly 10 years on average by the way Counter-Strike goes. Call of Duty's is one year. The game comes out every single year and the player base changes. New players pick up their first Call of Duty while old players lose them and don't come back, don't buy the game. In more recent years, we've seen more players dropping out of the esport than joining, really, if you think of staple figures. Maybe not in the pro scene as such, but if you think of the people who you play with on GBs or UMGs, you've probably seen quite a few people shifting off to different games. With it being a console esport as well, it's a level playing field. There's no advantage in having a different graphics driver, a different graphics CPU. There's no level difference in playing experience. It's all the same. All the tools are there, but the game isn't. Infinite Warfare has proven to be immensely unpopular even before it was released, and the esports season for that hasn't even been the greatest viewing experience. MLG are trying everything they can to make it a good viewing experience for everyone concerned. Double main stage at Champs, incredibly well put together events this year, but the game doesn't reflect it. Simply does not reflect it. The game this year has been inconsistent. No team has managed to string together 3 events, and you may say this is together with the parity of the different teams that there are right now, but realistically, if you look at statistics and you look at the history of Call of Duty, Optic Gaming should be wiping the floor with everyone, and yet they're not. Is this down to the inconsistencies of the game? Are they just not playing well? Or is the game so lackluster and unenjoyable that they're not willing to put the time into practice? I'm going to say it's an amalgamation of 2 of the above, which would be the inconsistencies of the game and the latter that I previously mentioned. Upsets happen a lot more frequently in this game as well, due to the option that you can play the same hardpoint 20 times, but you'll only win it probably 10, 11, 12 of those times if you're the better team. There's always going to be the inconsistency in Call of Duty. Sure, you can't play the same map perfectly every single time, but with Infinite Warfare, it seems to be significantly more. There's none of this anchoring, going for spawns, making sure that you send your AR rotating at 15 seconds, 20 seconds, down the side of the pool side on the raid hardpoint to go down to that garage hardpoint to lock down those spawns. There's none of that. There's no OBJ. The roles have been completely voided, and I'll talk about that later. The game has no tactical depth anymore. It's been completely lost. What happens to when you used to pull out a smoke and then go and rush the B bomb site with it, with a variety of different weapons like a Vector flip sight or an M27, which was that LMG that Killer pioneered on the back of the white truck on Warhawk S&D. If you think about it, the game is now pretty much just map knowledge and gun skill. There's no tactical depth, there's no strategy that you can pull out anymore. You just practice and do the same thing, rinse and repeat, and sometimes you might win a game. That's literally how it goes. The best players are the ones that can shoot straighter and the ones that have the best map knowledge to predict where someone might be coming from. And sure, that's a crucial factor to have for a game, but it's not the best part of the game. It's not what makes the game exciting. Counter-Strike, it can be fine if you have good aim. It can be fine if you have good map knowledge. In-game leaders don't necessarily have good aim at all, but they are pro because they have the ability to lead men. You don't need a leader of men in Call of Duty. You just call out where people are and shoot them off the spawns and shoot them off the hill. You're going to be fine in the jetpack Call of Duties. I can understand it. If you notice, a lot of successful teams in Black Ops 2 and games prior to that had a vocal in-game leader. Like in Black Ops 2, you could have said that Nadeshot potentially and Ghost would have been the in-game leader for Optic. You could have said that it would have been Merc potentially back in the day in Optic as well, or someone like that. You know, in the Cole team that dominated for the whole year of Black Ops 2 would have been Aches. Aches is your clear in-game leader in that, and you even had a coach. You had a coach as well. And these are things that made that game great. It had tactical depth, you had to call rotations, you had to be a leader of men, and that role is gone. It doesn't exist anymore. You can be in a team where you have an in-game leader and it's all this structure, and everyone rantled on about FaZe and E-United this year with Clayster being the in-game leader, and as much as I love Clayster, I'm subscribed to him on Twitch and have been for like 18 months. He's my favourite pro player. In-game leadership in Call of Duty essentially doesn't mean a great deal. Keeping your team level-headed is probably one of the major parts, the components that goes into it. The main part is making sure that you're focusing on pulling your weight, otherwise you're seen as a liability. Whatever happened to changing your utility the second that the other team pulled out the different perk to counter it? Remember in Black Ops 2 when Mr. X would be shouting behind the Complexity team, they've pulled on TACMAS, time to pull out the EMPs, that kind of thing. This whole tactical element has gone. It's seemingly been removed, and the most important one and the most prevalent one to me as an anchor when I used to play would be spawns. They're gone nowadays. Where you've had a dedicated anchor rotating 25 seconds to the hill to lock down the new spawns, they're not there anymore. Gone are the days when you push out cuts to make sure that they were spawning further away from the hardpoint. It doesn't matter anymore because they'll still get to the hardpoint in like maybe 2.5 seconds less time because of the movement system. The pace of the game has made spawns an irrelevant luxury. You don't need to hold them. The movement has made it a luxury. You can spawn on the other side of the map and be there within 10 seconds. You haven't even given them that much of a lead, and you can coordinate a push and win the game based off of that. What I would propose to create a better esport for Activision to actually care about and invest themselves in is I would devote Treyarch or Raven, one of the studios that has proven to make a good esport or a good game so far, for the esport, to be the solo studio dedicated to developing this Call of Duty esports title. Treyarch have proven their might to the community time and time again. Black Ops 3 was by no means a bad game, nor was Black Ops 1, but Black Ops 2 is the perfect model to go off. Sure, they may have had that blunder in Black Ops 3 with the pick and bans and that stuff, but that's just... everyone makes mistakes. Some are just bigger than others. The title would be released once only, separate to the main title, and it costs too much for people to buy every year, the main title. Release the online only Call of Duty esports title at a lower price of about £20 to £30, that's about $25, $35, $40. You can have in-game transactions, similar to the camos that were in Black Ops 2, which were immensely popular, which were all beautiful as well. Maybe even liveries for their favourite teams, similar in the way that CS have stickers for their favourite teams, which the proceeds go to the players and teams and contribute to the prize pool of the Call of Duty Championship, which would be the annual big event, like the International in Dota, for example. The game would have to be boots on the ground. It's proven to be the most consistent way of doing it. It has similar and improved spawn systems to the way that Black Ops 2 should, which would be fantastic for this title I'm proposing. It would immediately redefine the roles of players of having anchors and OBJs back these important, crucial roles. The second thing the game should include is a well-structured and balanced map. The map pool is pretty good for Call of Duty. We've had some banging maps over the years, and if you just take a few of those and remodel them, remake them into something that is viable for a specific game type, it would be excellent. For example, Black Ops 2 hardpoint maps are golden for this. Some of the maps from Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 3 and Infinite Warfare could even be used. Such as Fringe, Retreat, and integrate ghost maps such as Strike Zone or Freight. These maps could be coming in and out of rotation annually or wherever the map becomes outdated and exploited and reworked. For example, if Raid has been played for the first year, people are finding ways to run amok on the spawns and aggressively spawn trap different positions, then you take it out, replace it with maybe like a standoff, in a similar way that Valve do to Nuke and Inferno recently, give them a bit of an aesthetic remodel, rework the map and create a few different alleys, maybe move the laundry spawn a bit further back or something like that. Spacing changes can actually be huge. They can bring a different area to life, they can give more space, more opportunity to set up a spawn, to set up a trap, to set up a smoke, anything like that to break a hard point. You could even take away different elements of the game and add them back in with different changes. The space can actually give ways to break hills, throw nades, smokes, flashbangs, trophy systems, create new lines of sight for SMGs and ARs to work around, and you could change the guns and the weapon balancing if you wanted to, similar in the way that Valve have taken Tech9 out, rebalanced it, put it back in kind of thing. They've taken the flashbang, maybe make this flashbang time less, trophy systems more powerful, less powerful, that kind of thing. You can remodel the perks as well if they become a little bit too much. You adjust them. You make everything viable in that sense. Thirdly, for S&D, some of the things that I would have are the all-time great maps brought back in there, like Sovereign, Freight, Express. Even the older working maps like Wetwork from COD 4 could be integrated in. Quite good GB maps back in the day when they were played. But I don't think a map should be used for multiple game modes either. If you use a map once for one game mode, it's going to be incredibly specific to it, and it's going to work incredibly well with that one game mode. Some maps really did suffer from this, like Sovereign was a brilliant S&D map, but it wasn't the best domination map. The maps that are typically one dedicated to one game mode are pretty good. Like, if you look at Raid Hardpoint was the best game mode for Raid, without a question. CTF was decent on it, but I don't think Raid S&D was particularly anyone's favourite search and destroy map. Maps like Meltdown, which weren't for either, are well loved by different players and people who used to play League Play and that kind of stuff. So Meltdown S&D is one of the great examples of the maps that I'd throw in there. But having the one game mode per map undercomplicates the thing, makes it simple. A balanced map for everyone to share and specialise on a map, a specific game type, as good as you possibly can. It would be great. The final game mode that I'd actually keep in the rotation would be CTF if we're going for a boots on the ground title. The classic CTF I'm talking about here, not the Advanced Warfare type, where you have the Modern Warfare 2, 3, Black Ops 2 movement, was one of the most fun ways to play CTF I think I can remember. If we're saying we're keeping boots on the ground, CTF is brilliant. A third map thriller. That CTF is that slower paced game mode. You have your hardpoint, fast, in your face, crazy gameplay. S&D is your tactical, grinded out game, and CTF is your middle ground. And uplink was almost borderlining on that hardpoint pacing, especially with comeback uplink in Advanced Warfare. So I think CTF is the ideal game type. And I'd put these wonderful games like, you remember the last minute cap with Aches on standoff and the Optic Van. Classics like this is what makes CTF golden, and I believe the best map in recent memory for CTF would be Slums. So you put Slums in as one of the core CTF maps, and maybe make a few new ones as well. You could rework Freight to have its blitz portals as the flag capture points. It's just a suggestion. But I want to know what you guys think. This is something that I've had brewing in my head for a long time, and it's something that I've wanted to address. I think the Call of Duty eSport is a little bit lackluster. We'll see how World War II goes. It seems to have great potential so far from what we've seen, and I'm excited to cast it and bring opinion videos on the esport itself to you. So if you guys are excited for it, drop a like. If you guys want to see any more of my plans to do with the Call of Duty esports title or anything that I have to say about it, I'm going to have a few podcasts coming out this week, maybe next week at some time, where we talk about a few things like this, talk about a few of the contract issues in Counter-Strike and Call of Duty and all this sort of stuff as well. So if you're interested in seeing a few more of these analytical type videos, it's what you're going to be seeing on my channel. So make sure to subscribe. And as always, I'll see you later.